Today I'm reviewing the TurboAnt R9 all-terrain electric scooter, an entry-level scooter built for both daily commuting and some off-road adventure. I've spent some time riding the R9 through city streets, up and down hills, and even on a few dirt paths. In this review, I'll share my personal experience with its performance and design. So let's dive in and see what the TurboAnt R9 has to offer for a commuter and mixed terrain rider like me. The TurboAnt R9 looks rugged and ready for anything. It has a solid aluminum alloy frame with a matte black finish and bright red brake cables that add a bit of flair. The build feels sturdy and well put together when I lift it or ride over bumps. At about 55 pounds, it's noticeably heavy for a scooter. Carrying it up a flight of stairs takes some effort, but that weight translates into a stable ride on the road. The folding mechanism is straightforward. A lever and safety button at the base of the stem let me collapse the handlebars down to hook onto the rear fender. It's compact enough to fit in my car trunk. Though I definitely feel those 55 pounds when lifting it in, this isn't the kind of ultra-light last-mile scooter you'd sling over your shoulder, but for the performance it packs, the heft feels justified. Stepping onto the R9, I immediately noticed the deck space and comfort. The deck is about 19.7 inches long and 6.7 inches wide, which gives me plenty of room for a comfortable stance. I wear a size 10 men's shoe, and I can stand with one foot ahead of the other at a slight angle without feeling cramped. The deck has a grippy rubber mat with a tread pattern, so my shoes stay firmly planted even if the road gets bumpy. I also appreciate the decent ground clearance. I can roll over speed bumps and curbs at an angle without scraping the underside. The handlebar setup is well thought out. The bars are wide, about 23 inches, roughly shoulder width for me, which gives excellent control and stability, especially at higher speeds. Both hand grips are nicely padded, making longer rides easy on the palms. On the right handlebar is the thumb throttle and the front brake lever. On the left side, there's the rear brake lever, along with a cluster of controls for lights and the horn turn signals. Yes, you heard that right. The R9 actually has turn signal indicators like a little scooter motorcycle. The turn signal switch is on the left, and it activates blinking amber lights on the sides of the tail light. There's even an audible beeping when they're on, which is great because it reminds me to turn them off after completing a turn. This is a unique design element I didn't expect at this price point, and it adds a nice safety touch for road riding. Up on the stem is the LCD display unit. It's a compact screen showing the basics: speed, battery level, and the riding mode. It's not fancy, and there's no smartphone app integration or detailed info like trip mileage on the screen. Personally, I don't mind the simplicity. I just need to know how fast I'm going and roughly how much battery is left. To control the scooter, there are two buttons just below the display. A long press on the power button turns the scooter on, and a quick tap toggles the headlight and taillight on or off. The other button cycles through the 3 speed modes. All the controls are intuitive, so within minutes of hopping on, I felt familiar with the cockpit. Now let's talk about how the R9 actually rides. The TurboAnt R9 is powered by a 500-watt rear hub motor, and it definitely has some pep. The scooter offers 3 ride modes. Mode 1 limits you to about 10 miles per hour, good for cruising slowly or crowded areas. Mode 2 goes up to around 20 miles per hour, and Mode 3 unleashes the full power with a claimed top speed of 28 miles per hour. In my testing on flat ground with a full charge, I was able to hit roughly 27 to 28 miles per hour in Mode 3, which is as fast as many city speed limits for cars on side streets. Getting up to that speed was a thrill. The acceleration is smooth but strong. From a standstill, you do need to give a little kick push to engage the motor. As a safety feature, it won't go from 0 without a kickstart. Once I press down the thumb throttle, the R9 pulls forward assertively. It leaps to 15 miles per hour in just a few seconds, and if I keep the throttle pinned, it continues climbing past 20 miles per hour without much hesitation. The push from the motor feels more powerful than the typical shared rental scooter or basic commuter model. It actually pushed me back a bit on the deck the first time I went full throttle, so now I lean forward slightly when accelerating hard. As someone around 200 pounds, I'm at the higher end of the rider weight that many scooters are tested with, but the R9 handles it well. On flat terrain, I get the same top-end speed as lighter riders, though on hills the weight difference becomes noticeable. I took the R9 through my neighborhood, which has a mix of moderate inclines and one pretty steep hill. Climbing hills, the scooter inevitably slowed down, but I was impressed that it never bogged down to a crawl. On a steep residential hill, my speed dropped to roughly 12 to 15 miles per hour at the slowest point. But the R9 kept chugging along without me needing to kick or walk it. It has a listed 20% max climb ability, and while I didn't measure the grade precisely, it seems to live up to that spec. The motor has a persistent hum when working hard, but it never overheated or gave any trouble during my uphill tests. Speed is great, but it wouldn't mean much if the ride was rough or unstable. Thankfully, the TurboAnt R9 shines in ride comfort thanks to its combination of dual suspension and 10-inch pneumatic tires. The scooter features spring shock absorbers on both the front and rear wheels. I took the time to deliberately ride over potholes, manhole covers, and some uneven brick paths to test the suspension. The result, a much smoother experience than scooters I've ridden with no suspension. The dual suspension soaks up minor bumps and cracks in the pavement with ease. When I roll off a curb or hit a little dip, the springs compress and rebound softly, preventing that jarring impact that would normally rattle my knees. It's not the pillowy softness of a high-end mountain bike, but for an electric scooter in this class, it's impressive. On a bumpy city street, I could maintain a decent speed without feeling like I'd lose control or shake the scooter apart. The suspension also keeps the wheels in contact with the ground more effectively on rough terrain, which means better traction and stability. The 10-inch all-terrain tires are the other key part of the comfort equation. These tires are thick, air-filled with inner tubes, and have a knobby tread pattern for grip. On pavement, they provide a nice cushion and they grip well during turns. I noticed that the tire tread does produce a slight hum on smooth asphalt, as knobby tires usually do, but it's not very loud, and I stopped noticing it after a while. The trade-off for that hum is worth it when going off the beaten path. I took the R9 on a gravel trail and a grassy park shortcut, and the tires handled them without a problem. The scooter tracked straight through loose gravel, and I didn't experience any scary slips. In the grass, it slowed down a bit as expected, but kept moving steadily. The combination of pneumatic tires and suspension means the R9 truly earns its all-terrain label for light off-road use. I wouldn't take it on a really rocky mountain trail, but for dirt paths, packed earth, or uneven park terrain, it gives a confident ride. With great speed comes the need for great braking, and the TurboAnt R9 delivers strong stopping power, maybe a bit too strong until you get used to it. The R9 is equipped with dual drum brakes plus an electronic brake that engages with the motor. This means when I squeeze the brake levers, I'm getting a combination of mechanical braking on both wheels and some regenerative braking from the motor. The first time I tested the brakes at a decent speed, I was caught off guard by how grabby and powerful they were. I hit about 25 miles per hour on a straight and then braked hard. The scooter slowed down so abruptly that I had to brace myself to avoid pitching forward. From that point on, I learned to feather the brakes gently, especially the front brake, instead of grabbing a handful all at once. After a few rides, the braking action felt a bit more natural, and I think the brake shoes also wore in slightly, making them smoother. But make no mistake, the stopping power is excellent. I have no doubt the R9 can come to a quick stop in an emergency. At 15 to 20 miles per hour, it halts in just a few yards for me, and even from top speed, it can stop fast. One advantage of drum brakes is that they're enclosed, so they work reliably in wet conditions and don't require as much adjustment as disc brakes might. I rode through some light rain one morning and the brakes felt just as effective afterward. No squeaking or fading. The downside is they don't have the modulating feel of high-end disc brakes. It's more of a binary feel. That said, having both front and rear brakes gives a good balance. I tend to apply the rear brake slightly before the front brake to stabilize myself, then squeeze both to come to a smooth stop. The electronic brake also helps scrub speed and even works as a sort of engine brake when going downhill, as I mentioned earlier. Control-wise, the R9 feels stable and predictable. The sturdy stem and wide bars help a lot when braking hard. There was no wobble or flex that I could sense. I feel in control even during sudden maneuvers. For instance, I had to dodge a pothole last minute and the scooter responded quickly to the handlebar input without feeling twitchy. The weight being a bit higher than a small scooter actually gives it a planted feeling, which I like. As long as I keep my weight balanced, the R9 remains composed. I also like that the deck has a bit of clearance surface and the fenders cover the wheels well because it meant no road debris flying up when I stopped quickly or went through puddles. And with the mechanical bell on the handlebars, I can ping or honk at pedestrians as I slow down to pass, which is part of safe riding too. In summary, the braking is powerful and requires a bit of finesse, but it gives me confidence that I can control this scooter even at its high speeds. After adjusting to it, I appreciate having strong brakes. It's much better than weak brakes that leave you rolling past your stop point. Just be sure to practice braking in an open area when you first get it, so you know how the scooter reacts. Next up, battery life, a crucial factor for any electric scooter intended for commuting. The TurboAnt R9 comes with a hefty battery, about 48 volts, 12.5 amp hours. The company advertises up to 35 miles of range on a single charge. Of course, real-world range always depends on riding conditions, so I was eager to see how far I could go given my weight and riding style. In my tests, which included a lot of full throttle riding in Mode 3 and tackling hills, I found the range to be closer to 20 miles for a 200-pound rider going pretty aggressively. On one particular run, I covered around 15 miles of very hilly terrain at top speed, and by the end, I had roughly half the battery bars still showing. Extrapolating from that, if I rode it more moderately, hitting 30 miles on a charge seems quite feasible. Lighter riders, or those riding in the slower modes, could likely reach the stated 35 miles in ideal conditions. For my daily use, which is usually a 10-mile round-trip commute, the R9 has more than enough range. I can get through a couple of days of commuting before I need to recharge. One area the R9 really surprised me was how much attention TurboAnt paid to lighting and safety features. As I mentioned earlier, the scooter is equipped with a bright LED headlight and a rear tail brake light, as well as turn signals and a horn. These are features that even some more expensive scooters lack, so having them on the R9 is a big plus for someone using it in traffic or at night. Are there higher-end scooters out there? Sure, you can always find models with dual motors or more range, but you'll pay a lot more. The TurboAnt R9 hits a sweet spot, affordable yet feature-packed. My personal observations after testing it are largely positive. It's not often you get a commuter-friendly scooter that can also be your weekend fun ride on trails. If you don't mind the weight and you ride smart, helmet on, brakes practiced, and tires maintained, the R9 is a dependable partner for daily transportation. I honestly feel like I got a taste of the high-performance scooter world without the usual high cost. Are there higher-end scooters out there? Sure, you can always find models with dual motors or more range, but you'll pay a lot more. The TurboAnt R9 hits a sweet spot, affordable yet feature-packed. My personal observations after testing it are largely positive. It's not often you get a commuter-friendly scooter that can also be your weekend fun ride on trails. If you don't mind the weight and you ride smart, helmet on, brakes practiced, and tires maintained, the R9 is a dependable partner for daily transportation. I honestly feel like I got a taste of the high-performance scooter world without the usual high cost. I hope you found this detailed rundown helpful. Riding this scooter has been an absolute blast for me, and it might just be the all-terrain commuter combo you're looking for. Thanks for listening, and as always, ride safe out there.